Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to Gale FFTCG. I am Serah, your host, and today it's time to rate the top 4 cards of Set 7 by rarity. 1 per rarity, so that's common, rare, heroic, and legendary. And we are just going to dive straight into this because Wind got some cool cards this set. I am very excited for Wind, more than I have been in a long time. Not just because the cards are good per se, but because the cards are interesting and genuinely cool, rather than just being, I'm definitely super strong and broken. These cards have interesting implications in any deck that runs them, but especially in like Mono Wind as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. First off, we have 7. I do apologize for the Japanese cards. Normally I wouldn't do that, but the English cards are still nowhere to be found. So we're doing the best with what we've got while the spoilers are still relevant before pre-releases and everything get shot out all over the world. So jumping straight in for our common slot, a common that you definitely want to pick up because it is so strong for what it does. And if you can't get a hold of Amaterasu, you definitely want this card. 7 is a win forward, 3 CP. Class 0 Cadet, which is very important. Class 0 Cadets need some love, so there you go. 7k, 3 CP 7k is never bad. Dull, choose an opponent's auto ability. If your opponent doesn't pay 2, cancel the effect. That's really strong right out of the gate. It makes anything that's 3 CP cost 5, and anything that's above that cost even more. Very good. Just that ability to force your opponent to discard cards out of their hand if they want to play something early. I wouldn't recommend playing this turn 1, but if you think you're going to be in a bad matchup, you can do that. It also does hurt some of the more aggressive decks, especially, at least in my mind, Avalanche, because when party attacking, you can stop something from activating. That's pretty cool. I think the other thing that's cool about this is, especially since it's in Wind, you're likely going to be running a deck that activates anything, that activates forwards or whatever. This is not a once per turn effect, so you can untap it, and then you can tap it again. So say your opponent goes, okay, I'll pay the 2, and you're like, cool. With that on the stack, I'm going to go ahead and target the same ability again. Do you want to pay another 2? And I think the longer that a game goes on, and the more you force your opponent to discard cards just to pay the abilities, and also you're able to do it multiple times, I think that's very strong. Definitely get a hold of this card while you can. I think it's going to be very good. Up next in the rare slot is a card I am so excited for, and it is Gargas. This card, while it looks very odd, is super duper strong. This takes up our rare slot. 100% love this card, would totally recommend it. Forward, 2 cost. Black Mage, FFBE, 5k. The forward's opponent control, lose 2k power for each poison counter on them. At the beginning of each attack phase during your turn, choose 1 forward opponent controls, place a poison counter on it. And Bio, which is its special, that you choose 2 forwards and place up to 3 poison counters on them. Super strong. This feels a lot like Magic the Gathering's -1/-1 counters. I think this card is super interesting, especially because it has a lot of returns over the course of the game. Be careful, obviously, of Brynhildr's, etc. But I think the fact you can kind of hold up Bio Special and just threaten and just go, okay, I'm going to discard a card and reduce something by 6k is just super strong. And doing that to 2 forwards is really good. You can use this almost reactively if somebody wants to try Titan or anything like that. That is a big, big consideration as well. Also, category FFBE, I'll talk about a card later on that makes this card a lot better, but that will show up in a different video, so stay tuned for those. In our heroic slot, we have another FFBE card called Dario Horn. Forward, 5k, 5 CP, 9k. Seems pretty alright. Very much on curve for what it does. It's a prince and a rune fencer, if that matters. Category FFBE, which is again important because of a card which we'll talk about in another set. 9k is a pretty solid body already, but it's even better where Dario Horn's abilities are concerned. If Dario Horn is dealt damage, reduce the damage by 2k instead. Very, very, very strong. Reducing by 2k is always going to matter in the instances where we're going to be able to basically where we're going to be able to play against fire a lot more effectively, wind in some regards, being able to reduce board wipes and stuff is really strong. There's just a lot of good things that we can do with this card, and that would be great on its own. Just if it had that line of text, I think it would be effectively, you'd have to deal 11k to it every time. But there's a lot more lines of text, so it's going to get even better. Dario Horn cannot be broken by opposing summons or abilities that don't deal damage, so none of this straight up breaking things. He can be put into the break zone, unfortunately, which is annoying, but totally understandable. That's kind of always been the workaround for lines of text like this. At the end of each of your turns, choose a forward and activate it. I really like this with 7, the common that we talked about earlier. Being able to use that with 7 is pretty good. You can also use it to activate just a really big dude. Any activated ability, really, that you can think of in Wind. Well, it's any forward at all that you can think of that would be really good, an action ability, whatever. Try it out. It's honestly, this will be very worth your time. It's a good option as a boss unit as well for any sort of budget decks that you want to build. I think this card is great. At the end of each of your turns, and one more thing. I'm reading the wrong line of text. Iraga Blade, which is S and Wind. Again, it matters because of another card that I'll talk about later, but it's really good. You can choose one character of cost 4 or more and break it. Very strong. Super, super strong, in fact. The ability to just be able to break a backup, a monster, or a forward is really strong. And being able to do it even if you don't have that special card I keep teasing. It's just really strong. I like it a lot. I think it's definitely worth a heroic slot. And I could actually see myself playing it in the heroic format as well. And finally, in our legend slot, we have Kelger. So obviously there's only 2 legends each set, and anytime I choose a legend, I like to choose the most versatile legend. And we've already seen Box Topper Null, but I am not a big fan of Box Topper Null. I am a big fan of it, but I think this one is a more interesting card to talk about, and I think this one will generally be better. Box Topper Null will be easier to get a hold of, though. So, I'm not taking the budget option this time. So, Kelger, Opus 17L, he's going to be a forward with 4 CP. Wow, I don't know why I just turned into a robot there. Dawn Warrior, Category 5 and Mobius, both of those are very relevant. They can search in those colors. 8k, so 4 CP, 8k seems pretty good to me. If your opponent doesn't control a forward of cost 5 or more, Kelger gains Haste, First Strike, and Brave. All of those are great keywords, regardless of how you read them. All of them together are fantastic. Being able to attack on the turn it's played, if your opponent isn't playing big forwards, is really good, and it's really hard for your opponent to deal with outright, because it is an 8k. They will be forced, like 2 Brennhilders might do it, but it's not necessarily going to matter, because 2 Brennhilders at that point, they're drawing 4 cards, you played 4 cards, and you went to swing, you'll probably also have other things that are better as well, and it means that they had to force the Brynhilders on this thing rather than using them on maybe some of your weaker things like Gargus or something like that. And also, when Kelger enters the field, you may pay Wind, and when you do so, you choose one forward of cost 5 or more and break it. So you basically will get the effect anyway, but it's really versatile in most matchups just in general, regardless of which one you see. If you see a matchup with a lot of big 5 drops or whatever, you can just break them. And if you see a matchup with less, or like kind of less 5 drops, then you'll be able to do the same thing. Like, it's going to be good in both. Yeah. Well, either way, that is the end of the video. Apologies for a little bit of the stutters and things. I am very tired from streaming a 7-hour stream. But yeah, I want to thank you guys, obviously, for sticking with the channel. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps big algorithm notice me and the videos that I'm doing. And don't forget to share this as well. Let me know in the comments what you think your favorite cards are and what you think will be super strong in this set. And yeah, just get a wee discussion. Keep an eye out for the rest of the top 4 videos that I'll be posting for one of every rarity in this new set. Well, have a good day and a good rest of your week.